Welcome, everybody. Good morning to the Universalist Unitarian Church of Halifax. This is going to be another in our series of shared services for this summer, part of the CUC Sunday Summer Services series, featuring presentations from congregations across the country. My name is Margaret Galbraith. I'm your volunteer service leader today, ably assisted by Jessica Friesen, the music director for the congregation, and John Piccolo, our extremely valuable volunteer technician. Reverend Norm Horofker and our minister, and Marie-Claude Leroux, our director of religious exploration, are both on leave for the summer, with regular church services and the RE program starting again in September. And I noticed Norm just checked in from Toronto a few minutes ago, so he's actually here with us virtually. Our entire service today will be virtual. Sections are happening here in Halifax from my home and from the church sanctuary where Jessica is playing, and other sections from videos of the presentation from the Unitarian Church of Montreal, which was actually broadcast in full last Sunday. It's entitled Lessons from the Playground, Reflections from RE Leaders. And playground is not a typo, but they'll explain that during the service. Our chat function is open. I invite you to extend our hospitality by saying hello to anyone you don't recognize. If any of you are not already receiving our UU Info notifications with news of our activities and so on, please send an email to me, president@uuch.ca. The order of service for today was sent out over UU Info yesterday with details of the service and the announcements. The announcements are mostly the same as we've had the last few weeks. Norm and Janet are still away in Toronto. They'll be back on Wednesday. But if you have any urgent matters, please contact myself or Sylvia Madison, who is the chair of our caring committee. Sylvia hosts the Thursday evening get-together on Zoom. If anybody feels they really need to get together for conversation, to feel less isolated as we still are this time. But this Thursday, they've decided to do something special. They're having a show off your mask, a mask parade with everybody wearing their masks, because now masks are mandatory in all public areas in Nova Scotia. And we can join on Thursday evening and show off your mask virtually in our Zoom conversation. The other important item there, the other item is about the Autism Nova Scotia is still using the church building for their summer camp until for another 2 or 3 weeks. And so you have to contact them if you need to access the church during the week. And the other item in there is about the AGM, which we'll be having on August the 30th. It will be on Zoom, but we're also discussing how we might have some people in the sanctuary, just as a bit of an experiment with practicing to see whether or not we could open it for services later in the year. So there'll be more news about how that will work later on. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Kjipuktuk in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. This territory is covered by the treaties of peace and friendship, which the Mi'kmaq first signed with the British Crown in 1726. The treaties did not deal with surrender of lands and resources, but in fact recognized Mi'kmaq title and established the rules for what was to be an ongoing relationship between nations. For anyone watching outside Mi'kma'ki or Nova Scotia, please take a moment to acknowledge the territory which nurtures you at this moment. Acknowledgement is only a beginning. Let our commitment to reconciliation and building nation-to-nation relationships be the natural action which follows. This congregation has undertaken a number of initiatives to help us learn the hard truths of our history. We currently are planning our way forward for the fall. This week, we have selected different parts of the Montreal service that fit particularly well with ours. The order may be a little different. We'll now go to their congregation for our musical prelude. to bring us into the sacred space of community, which is our Sunday worship. And thank you to that wonderful trio from Montreal, a little Vivaldi to start our service. And now to light our chalice, as we do each Sunday, we'll read the chalice lighting words as Jessica in the church sanctuary will light the chalice for us. For today's service, I am using the opening words that were selected by Camelia Jahanshai, one of the co-hosts from Montreal. They are entitled Teaching Dreams by Cecil W. Morris. Some nights, students return to me like salmon on their spawning bed. They shake my hand and sit across from me and tell me what they have done, what they will soon be doing. I remember all their names and just where each one of them sat in my classroom. Still, when they tell me what they learned, it's not what I remember teaching. With these words and a message of gentle curiosity, our chalice is lit. Thank you, Jessica. Now, I hope there are some children or youth here with us this morning. Since our service is about adults reflecting on teaching in UU religious explorations, I'm hoping there will be some children here today to give us your thoughts at the end about being taught RE in a UU setting. You could tell us in words or draw a picture, whatever works best for you. And we'll look forward to hearing from you in the discussion at the end, after the ending of the recorded part of our service. We'll now go back to the Montreal Church for their meditation and reading. This is their entry to their time for joys and sorrows, and we'll follow it with our own joys and sorrows ritual. Here's Camelia Jahanshai.
So for today in our meditation, we're going to start with a small grounding exercise, and then that will be followed by 3 intentional breaths that we take together. But to begin, I would just like you all to take a minute to adjust to where you're sitting. Let your shoulders fall, let the tongue fall from the roof of your mouth, and just be in the present moment and look around your space and see if you can spot 3 green things. Doesn't matter what they are, just see if you can see the color green 3 times and let that color radiate through you. For me, green is the color of life. So taking that idea of lived energy and the fact that you're surrounded by it, no matter where you are. Then I invite you, if you would like, to close your eyes and to deepen even further into your body and to take 3 breaths with me, in through your nose and then out through your mouth. Together we go. First breath. Second breath. And on the third breath, I invite you to exhale with a noise. Our reading today comes from the one and only Mr. Rogers, a beacon of self-reflection and mutual love and compassion. Mr. Rogers says, as human beings, our job in life is to help people realize how rare and valuable each one of us really is. That each of us has something that no one else has or ever will have. Something inside that is unique to all time. It's our job to encourage each other to discover that uniqueness and to provide ways of developing its expression. Thank you.
We take this special time now to reflect on our joys and sorrows. This is a sacred time in our service, a time set apart to honor the many sorrows and the many joys that you, the congregation, are living, to acknowledge the mutual support of our community. Jessica will be lighting the candles for us in the sanctuary. Today, I would ask her to start by lighting one for all the sorrows that go unspoken, the large ones perhaps exacerbated by the pandemic, and the small, everyday annoyances. I would then ask her to light one for all the joys of every day, the big ones that no pandemic can diminish, and the small, everyday ones, like the fresh Nova Scotia raspberries I had the other day. Each week, we have been inviting anyone who wants to share a significant joy or sorrow at this time in our service to relay their thoughts by email to Reverend Norm or to myself or Sylvia. But we haven't got an email about anybody's particular issues this week. However, Jessica did say she would like us to light a candle, or she can light her candle, for her sister Elena, who is leaving Manitoba to go to school in Niagara-on-the-Lake. She's taking a landscaping course at the Niagara Parks College, just near Niagara-on-the-Lake in Ontario. And she's very excited and a bit nervous, I think Jessica said. So we'll all wish her much luck in her new role. Later, when we stop the live streaming on YouTube, before the coffee hour begins, we will invite anyone else to share a joy or sorrow if they would like to do so in the more private part of our service. May the joys and the sorrows, both those acknowledged here now and later this morning, and those held in silent sanctuary in our heart, weave us together in the fabric of community. We'll now celebrate the ritual of the offering. Our offering presents us with a time of ritual, a time to celebrate the importance of generosity, and you, the congregation, have responded again and again. In this trying time, your generosity has been amazing. You kept our Saturday brunch takeout and food box programs going, and many of you gave unpledged donations, just knowing that our income for the year will probably be down. Thank you so much. As we're learning to do all of this online, we stopped the Share the Plate program for the summer, but hope to start that again in the fall. No doubt you are contributing as you can to the many efforts addressing social justice issues at this time. If you also wish to donate to UUCH, we would gratefully accept any pledged or unpledged donations you would care to make. You can do this by e-transfer to treasurer@uuch.ca. If you prefer to do this by check, send to the church address. With gratitude from your board of directors.
Good morning, everybody. We are going to do the hymn, I Seek the Spirit of a Child. It's beautiful. Margaret said, why don't we do this one? And I looked it up and the words fit perfectly. So please sing along. Like I always say, I can hear you at home. So please. I seek the spirit of a child, the child who meets life naturally, the child who sings the world alive and greets the morning sun with glee. Children are real beyond all art. May I see joys I give to our hearts. I seek the freedom. I seek the freedom of a child who loves instinctively, whose lights our days with just a smile and shines that light on all we see. Children are real beyond all fears. May I see hope's a gift to our tears. I seek the wonder of a child who sees delightfully. Now comes in cloud, now golden sun, imaginations true and free. Children are real beyond all lives. May I see faith's a gift to our eyes. Sing that one more time. Ready? May I see faith's a gift to our eyes. Thank you.
We will now go to the Montreal Church for their reflections from the playground.
For our service today, reflections from the playground, we ran into a bit of a miscommunication with when we were organizing with the CUC, because they had understood it as a spelling mistake, that we were going to be talking about the playground. This is true. Playground is a play on words, but this word was intentional. This word comes from our congregation, and what I'm sure is many other congregations use this word as well. What the playground is at the UCM is an area of the sanctuary where our children sit before we go downstairs to our religious explorations program. This is an area that has scarves to play with, little whiteboards, felt boards for the children to play and fidget with while we go through the first couple songs before they're able to go downstairs. And it's quite a magical place to be able to gather in the morning. Many congregations are different. We call our education for our young people religious explorations, religious education. Some people call it Sunday school. But we wanted to give a special window into how we educate our children, especially during the summer. During the school year, when we go downstairs with the kids, we don't necessarily, as religious educators, get to hear what's happening in the service. And the adults in the service don't necessarily see what's happening downstairs. The unique opportunity that comes with summer services is that here at the UCM, two of the religious exploration staff happen to run summer services. So we have the capability of not only sharing what we do during the year, but also asking our coworkers to come along for the ride. So today, you'll be hearing from religious educators past and present who will be sharing their reflections on what religious explorations means to them as Unitarian Universalists, as educators, as teachers, and people who are inspired by our youth. Thank you for coming along with us. And while we're sharing these videos from our coworkers, we'd like to acknowledge that this team is led fiercely by our DRE, Catherine Childs, who is also on summer holiday, much deserved, and they will not be joining us because they are on vacation. We are very excited for them to come back to us in September.
My name's Chloe. I moved to Montreal in 2013 and got a job in the nursery pretty much right away in the fall, and then was an RE teacher from, I guess, 2014 to 2019. And since then I've also been a summer service coordinator, and I'm now the chair of the Racial Justice Committee. I loved it. It's like its own little church. I mean, there's a reason we call it the Children's Sanctuary, but it's yeah, it's its own little congregation, you know, that was all really full of important people to me. I don't know if you've met the kids in RE, but they're so smart. They're so smart. I'm constantly in awe of Catherine and their ability to like set up learning activities, but also just in general an environment of so much trust that these kids feel comfortable sharing so much of themselves with us. And there's so much to learn from kids when they feel that comfortable. And I guess what's really special about RE was that, like, unlike other teaching jobs that I've done where you're with the same kids for a year, some of the kids stay like their whole growing up process, you know? So with this one particular kid, I met him when he was 7, and when I left RE he was 12, and like that's huge to build a relationship with another person over the course of 5 years. I think there's maybe a myth that you have to like know a lot about Unitarian Universalism to be an RE teacher. I think that at least I learned most of what I know about the faith through teaching RE, and the opportunities that I got to learn more about my own faith and spirituality, as well as like some of the like traditions surrounding UUism through RE. What would I tell them about RE?
Yeah.
I think it's a place to encourage kids to explore. I mean, that's in the name. Encourage kids to question, encourage kids to talk and create. But as much as it's that, you get to go along for the ride. It taught me, yeah, the kind of workplace that I'm looking for, one of care.
I'm Emma. I'm a RE teacher at Unitarian Church of Montreal. What I love about working with kids is the way that they see the world. I feel like a lot of times as adults especially, we develop certain habits or ways of interacting that are usually reinforced by other people. And after a while, we tend to approach a lot of various scenarios and different problems from kind of the same perspective. You know, you get set in your ways. And then when you go to discuss those issues or problems or ideas with a child, it can be really vivifying to sort of have this perspective coming from a completely different direction. It makes me a more flexible person, and also introduces me to new ways of seeing sort of the same problems, the same issues. Our community, we use the term religious explorations, which I'm a big fan of actually. I was raised in the Baha'i faith, and one of the major tenets is the independent investigation of the truth. The idea is that you're not just supposed to take someone's word for it, but learning as much as you can and really trying to discover from your own experience and for yourself what constitutes not only spiritual truth, but truth in the physical realm. And I think for me, a lot of religious faith traditions tend to impart one particular identity and set of rules to their youth, right? So it can make it really difficult as a child to pursue truth from other perspectives. And so for me, even coming into a religious education context under the guise of exploration, where children are expected to pursue things down the avenues that they find interesting, where their own experiences and perspectives are validated, is really, really something special and something that I truly believe in. And I think it's difficult from an educational perspective to encourage that habit in children, especially if there's something in particular that you want them to glean from what you're teaching. So for me, going into it from an exploration perspective reminds me that it's not me imparting knowledge and wisdom to children so much as trying to encourage the tools for them to find what matters to them in the ways that matter to them, I think. So, for example, there was a week where we talked about self-care, sort of how kids can help regulate themselves emotionally, the ways that they can take care of themselves, both physically, spiritually, relationally, to help them feel better in the world and to help them deal with sort of the trials of their lives. And then the subsequent week, it was sort of, so we went from this very interior exploration of compassion and looking after the self. And then the subsequent week, I think we focused on some of the racial injustices that were taking place in a nearby Indigenous community. And so in this juxtaposition, the kids could sort of extend that empathy that they were cultivating for themselves, which is really important, and that compassion, extend it outwards to people that weren't necessarily like them, sort of practice the work of not only caring for themselves, but caring for their communities and recognizing community in sort of the other as well, which I think was a really powerful, it was a powerful thing to watch, the extension of their own humanity to others.
Hi, my name is Daniel Hickey. I use he, him pronouns, but I'm also constantly pronoun questioning. I have been for a while, but we'll stick with he, him for now. I work as an RE teacher at the Unitarian Church of Montreal, and I have been doing that for the past year. I'm also a drama teacher and a theatre maker for young people, and so I think of the work I do as an RE facilitator at Unitarian Church of Montreal is very much a part of that overall work I do with young people in their artistic, spiritual lives. So something I find really valuable about the RE work that we do at the Church in Montreal is our bead check-in. And this is what we do at the very beginning of our time with our group of young people. And we were doing it in person prior to COVID, and we do it now online as well. So our bead check-in it's very simple. We come in, we sit down, we have a set of colorful beads, like the ones you might use to make a friendship bracelet. And they're all arranged really nicely in an ice cube tray. And each color of bead corresponds to a particular feeling. So for example, yellow is excited, I think, orange, happy, red, angry, green, anxious, blue, sad. We have, I think, probably 10 colors in total, including something else. And what we do is we basically go around, everybody introduces themselves, they choose a bead or a set of beads that are the colors of how they're feeling when we see each other. And then they take those beads and they put them in a collective jar that we have. So over time, what we see is a buildup of all of the feelings that this whole group has had over the time that we've been checking in together. And that's really cool. But I think something that I've learned from doing bead check-in that that makes me think it's really valuable is basically what we're doing is practicing every week, giving language to how am I feeling right now? What's going on in my internal world? What's going on in my actual world between people in the last day, in the last week, whatever. And I think that's really valuable because usually my intuition is to play lots of games with kids and be really creative and joyful, and there's definitely a place for that. But giving language to feelings in a just sincere and clear and efficient way helps to bring just something more complex and deep to these relationships we're building with young people. I found so much do I enjoy Bead Check-In that recently in the COVID times when I've been Zoom doing everything, I've been taking Zoom Bead Check-Ins to other classes that I lead, other drama classes. And I've been hearing from adults in those other drama classes that they've been taking Bead Check-In to their drama classes as well. It feels like it's kind of spreading out around the place. And I think that's because, as I say, it's just a really clear and efficient and wonderful way of saying, here's where I am. I'm practicing talking about how I'm feeling. And, you know, that's it. It's not more complicated than that. I really love that practice that we have. Our Bead Check-In at the UU in Montreal. Yeah, that's me.
A lesson I learned during RE was that it was important to have a time to share the good and bad in your life. Joys and Concerns was an amazing ritual that we had in RE that always seemed to build our community because the children could relate to the good and the bad that others had gone through or were feeling in that moment. And sometimes it was really just freeing to say, today I'm not having a great day, and others just accepted that. Instead of always feeling like you had to say things were okay or you're just feeling fine. So Joys and Concerns were my favorite and will always be one of my favorite parts of RE. Thank you.
Jessica has an interlude for us now.
Hello, everyone. So when I was picking the music for this service, I was very excited because you get to go back to your childhood, and many of us we love Sesame Street, and it was one that I watched, and so I automatically thought of Kermit the Frog and the Rainbow Connection. Personally, I like it by Willie Nelson, so you should check that out. It's actually it's great. But I want to give the composers. So it's by Paul William and Kenneth Asher. So I hope you enjoy, and it's a little spin on Rainbow Connection. So sing along if you know it. Why? Okay, see, there's mistakes, but you do that when there's, and with children, right? You adapt. Here we go. There we go. Why are there so many songs about rainbows, and what's on the other side? Rainbows are visions, but only illusions, and rainbows have nothing to hide. we might see. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers in me, all of us under its spell. We know that it's probably magic. Have you been half asleep? And have you heard voices? I've heard them calling my name. Are these the sweetest sounds that call the young sailors? The voice might be one and the same. I've heard it too many times to ignore it. Sometimes I'm supposed to be. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers in me. Join in, ready? Da 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 dum, da 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 dum, dee da doo. Wonderful.
Thank you, Jessica. Trips down memory lane. At this point in our regular service, we would ask for reflections or comments on the presentation that was just made. And in that spirit, today, I was thinking I would ask if there are children here or any of the adults who would like to comment, but it turns out that causes considerable technical issues. So we'll have to save any comments for the end of the show when we're no longer taping it and it's not on YouTube. So if you do have comments, hang on to those. We'll hope to hear from them soon. And now back to Camellia for our closing words.
So our closing words for this Sunday also come from Mr. Rogers, because he is my true guide for how I want to treat myself and how I want to show others they deserve to be treated. His work in valuing children and learning from them as much as he tries to teach is something that I take with me into every educational space I'm in, regardless of the age group involved. So, with knowing that, he says, "The world needs a sense of worth, and it will achieve it only by its people feeling that they are worthwhile. Try your best to make goodness attractive. That's one of the toughest assignments you'll ever be given."
And now to extinguish our own chalice before our closing hymn, read with me together the short closing that will, I think, come up on the screen. There. As breath to song, as flame is to spirit, so spirit is to breath, and breath to song. Though we extinguish the flame in the sanctuary, may we tend it in our hearts until we meet again. And Jessica will now lead us in our closing hymn.
So, of course, with the closing words by Mr. Rogers, I mean, what are we going to sing? It's obvious. Won't you be my neighbor? First of all, I want to give a little shout out to Mr. Rogers here. He was a wonderful, wonderful musician. If you look up on YouTube, just write Mr. Rogers music, playing music, it's amazing. He's an amazing pianist and he does a lot of jazz, which I love. Before we sing this song together, I just wanted to, I had some words here. It said, this is something he wrote, and it's very prevalent to today and what we're going through. So it says, when I was a boy and I would see scary things in the news, my mother would say to me, look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping. To this day, especially in times of disaster, I remember my mother's words, and I am always comforted by realizing that there are still so many helpers, so many caring people in this world. So he was about love, and that's what we're about here. So let's sing Won't You Be My Neighbor? It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? It's a neighborly day for a beauty, a neighborly day for a beauty. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? I have always wanted to have a neighbor just like you. I've always wanted to live in a neighborhood with you. So let's make the most of this beautiful day. Since we're together, we might as well say, would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor? Won't you please? Won't you please? Please, won't you be my neighbor?
Thank you, Jessica and Mr. Rogers. And thank you all who attended our service today by Zoom or by YouTube. Thank you again, Jessica, for your support, and John for making it all happen. Goodbye now to those of you who joined us on YouTube as we end our live streaming. And for those of you on Zoom, hang in for a moment. John has a number of technical things he has to do at this point before we can open it up for everybody to share on the gallery view.
Would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor? Won't you please? Won't you please?